My friend and yours, Scott Curtis, is going to be bringing some, what do you call it?
Wicked comedy.
Wicked comedy. Okay. All right. Give it up for Scott.
Thank you, Nat, for having me. Thank you all for coming out. I actually have people here. That's weird. So that last act was very metal. Guys, I like metal. That's the stuff I listen to. I was listening to metal before you guys were born, so that was cool. So I'm going to take you all on kind of a guided trip through my life. I got to tell you, open mics are a lot different for comics than they are for musicians, because musicians get to practice before they come up, and open mics for comics is actually practicing. So what I did is I brought out all my best stuff for tonight for you. So I was born in South Bend, but I grew up in Lakeville, Indiana. Has anybody heard of Lakeville? Yeah. So Lakeville is seriously represented tonight, and I appreciate that. So I grew up in Lakeville, and I don't want to say that we were poor when we were growing up, because we weren't, but my parents were very, very thrifty. And the reason why is because my brother and I both grew like this, very quickly. So we grew out of clothes super quick. So a lot of my clothes said defect or irregular, and that gave me a little bit of a complex. And as I went into junior high, one particular thing came up. My mom got me a really cool shirt that had a race car on it, had an Indy car on it, and it was supposed to say Shell up here, but they actually sewed the S into the seam of the armpit. So it said Hell, and you could only see the S if I took my arm and did this. And so she gives me the shirt and says, okay, wear it to school. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And she said, why? And I said, well, because it says Hell. And let me tell you, I was in 7th grade, and the middle school kids were with the high school kids. And by the time I was in 7th grade, I was taller than most of the seniors. So all I wanted to do was lie low and not cause a ruckus. So I said, this isn't going to work. And she says, well, you can see the S if you hold your arm just right. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go through school holding my arm like this. So anyway, I wore the shirt. It did cause a ruckus. A lot of the kids were talking. And at lunchtime, the principal came up to me and said, you really shouldn't wear that shirt. And I said, I know. And he said, well, please don't wear it anymore. And I said, is there any way you could give me a written reprimand so I can take that home to Mom? Because she's going to make me keep wearing it. How's it going over here? Good. The other thing is because I grew so fast, my jeans got short really quick, and my mom never really noticed that, and I didn't notice it until they were really about 6 inches above my shoe length, and I started getting teased at school. So I would come home and say, Mom, you gotta get me some new jeans, and my mom says, oh, no, I don't. She would grab my old jeans and actually sew a ruffle onto the bottom of my jeans, and she called them a ruffle. So my jeans didn't quite match all the way through high school, and that was kind of rough. Obviously, I'm tall. I'm 6'5". If I had to do it all over again, I would have stopped growing at about 6'2". The reason why is because all you folks can walk into TJ Maxx and Marshalls and Goodwill and actually find clothing. I cannot buy anything there. Every time I walk in, there is not a stitch of clothing that fits me. The only thing I can buy at TJ Maxx is socks. That's it. That's end of joke 2. So this has been a pretty big month for me. I celebrated my 30th anniversary with my wife. That was earlier this month. And we've been together for a little over 35, so that's good. A lot of people ask me, they say, Scott, how do you stay married for 30 years? And the first thing I tell them is, just don't file for divorce. Because when you do that, that's when you're not married anymore. And so I started thinking, how did we make this work? How did I make this work? What's different about me? And there is a lot different about me. You've probably already saw that. First off, I don't get into sports. I never watch sports. I don't care. I don't know who the quarterbacks are. I don't know who hits the puck. I don't know any of that. I'm not into hunting or fishing. None of that really turns me on. I don't like working on my car. What I really like to do is to snuggle up with my wife and watch shows like Say Yes to the Dress. And we really treat that kind of like a sporting event. I do a little bit of armchair quarterbacking because on some of those dresses, you know the boobs aren't going to fall out. And so we do that. We watch another one that you may not have heard of called Four Weddings. Has anybody heard of that show? I love that show because we actually make bets on that show. Basically what it is four women go to each other's weddings and they grade the wedding and somebody gets a prize at the end. But basically all they do is complain about the food at the wedding. And what we do is we try to guess which woman is going to be the meanest at the beginning of the show. And we're usually pretty much right on track for that. But my favorite show, which is probably your favorite show, and that's Project Runway. Okay. I've never missed a show, never missed a season. I watch it every single time, and I watch it when it's on. I don't even videotape it or TiVo it or whatever you kids do nowadays. So we watch it, and I just got to say that Tim Gunn is a much bigger badass than any of the sports people. So how does that make me different than everybody? Well, I guess it just pretty much makes me my wife's gay roommate that gave her a couple great kids. So that's how you last for 30 years. Speaking of kids, I've got two of them. They are both tremendously more successful than I am. My daughter is a vice president of one of the largest companies in the world and the youngest vice president, and my son works for NASA as a rocket scientist, so they're both doing really good. And that, as a parent, you want that. I do feel like they're rubbing it in just a little bit, though. I mean, let's just go to the stratosphere and make Dad feel really bad. So I tell folks that, and they say, well, you must have done a really good job raising them. And basically what that does to me is freaks me out because I don't know what I did. I just walk around going, what did I do, what did I do, what did I do? I know for a fact that they had food, and I know for a fact their jeans were always long enough without ruffles. I was very good at making sure that happened. Other than that, I think one of the best things I really passed on to my kids was the ability to find the fastest checkout line in a grocery store. Because I don't know how you guys feel about it, but my goal when I go into a grocery store is to get out as fast as I can. That's all I want to do. And so I taught them some tips and tricks. First, you want to see who's in the lines. If there's a person in the line who hasn't even started putting their stuff on the belt and the other person is almost checked out, you don't want to get behind that one. What you're really looking for in people in line is they put the items on the belt by weight, and then by type, and then by crushability. That's all you need. If they're doing that and they don't pull out a checkbook, you're good. The other thing I look for is cashiers, and there's really four types of cashiers. The first cashier is the yacker. That's the one that just wants to talk to you about what you're wearing, how the weather is out there, and during none of that time are they actually ringing up groceries. The next cashier is the board cashier, and that cashier is really not into doing what they want to do. And they are reading the ingredients on the stuff as they put it on the belt, and they look at it and say, oh, I didn't know we carried that. And it goes very slow. The third type of cashier is the I don't know where the UPC code is cashier, and they turn it around 150 times before they find it. What I'm looking for is a cashier that's wearing a sweatband, makes no eye contact, and just scans like a crazy person. And if you ever go to the Meijer on Grape Road, that person does exist. The dude is faster than any of them, and I will definitely go to him every time. So another thing I did to shorten my trips at the grocery store is become vegan. I'm not going to ask if anybody's vegan out there because I've got some advice at the end of this for vegans. But so that makes the trip much shorter. You go to produce, you go to peanut butter, you go to almond milk, and you're out. Saying that I'm vegan really breaks my own advice. When you are vegan, the biggest piece of advice I can give you is to not tell anybody you're vegan ever. The reason why is because if you tell a non-vegan, you're going to get about an hour lecture on protein. And at the end of it, they're going to say, you don't look good. And if you tell a vegan, then they start to quantify or qualify your veganism. Because guess what, guys? I eat honey, and apparently that makes me not vegan. And then they say I'm plant-based and tell me I need to get off the honey. And I'm doing a lot. I did a lot to get vegan at age 54, and so I'm going to go ahead and just go with it the way it is right now. So I turned 54 yesterday.
Hey.
Yeah, it's a big month. It's a big month. I have to say that I don't really like hanging around with my age group of people, simply because we are getting kind of lame. Basically, we are into classic rock, and that's about it. If I tell people my age that I found a new band that I'm really into, they're like, oh, Bon Jovi? And if I try to take them to see a show of a new band that I really like, they can't go because they are going to see Styx 100 miles away. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I do prefer to hang around with younger folks because they're more in tune to things. The only problem is I don't speak your language anymore. My brain doesn't process things anymore, and you guys are changing things up. For instance, somebody will come to me and say, man, I haven't seen you in a minute. And I'm like, it's been at least 2 weeks. I can't do it. And somebody will tell me they're thirsty for tacos. And apparently thirsty just means craving now. And I'm like, how can you be? I'm thirsty for beer, but I'm not thirsty for tacos. I can't do that. And then somebody will be really into me and they'll say, man, dude, you are woke. And I'm like, I hope so because I'm driving. I just made that up. End that joke. The other thing about my age people is we're on social media and we really shouldn't be. I don't know how many times I've heard people my age or I've seen them post the meme that says, kids today drink bottled water and we drank out of a hose. And it's just not cool because I drank out of a hose and I got a lot of lead and bacteria and I probably shouldn't be alive now. The other thing is why are we so obsessed with Minions? If anybody over 50 puts out a meme, there is always the meme and there's a minion there. And that was a children's movie, right? I'm not wrong. Why are we obsessed with the Minions? I don't get it. I have never reposted a Minion meme. So
Never too late.
no. How am I doing on time?
5 minutes.
Excellent. I'm going to wrap it up. So obviously I'm 54 and there's some younger guys out there. I do like to give advice at all my shows. So one thing that women get the leg up on men is they have a lot of stuff to keep them looking young. So they use shampoo and conditioner. They use soap and moisturizer, whereas we get a jug of soap that is good for your hair, your face, your body. It's a good drain cleaner. You can wash your car with it. And it's fine because it's one thing for all of us. However, once you turn 50, if you don't moisturize, your face starts melting. And here's the face. You can see it right there. The other thing that happens is you might be in Elkhart and you go to Speedway to get a Diet Mountain Dew and the cashier might say something like, hey, you look like an older Harrison Ford. And so, some of you guys aren't getting that, but Harrison Ford is 75 and I'm 54. So that makes him 21 years older than me. So then, obviously I turned back and I said, what's your point of reference? Is it the first Indiana Jones movie or is it the last Star Wars movie he was in? Because that kind of makes a difference. Folks, thank you for listening to me. Thank you, Nat, for putting this on. I really enjoyed myself. I'm done.
Every once in a while, we have a magical thing happen where we have